Hello, my name is David Morrissey and I'll be telling the story of some of the Syrian refugees that I visited in Jordan. There's nearly over 500,000 people in the urban spaces around Jordan. And when I met one family, the family I met in this basement, they had a terrible experience getting to safety in Jordan. The father had been shot in the leg, one of his sons had been shot at twice by various forces inside Syria. They'd lost everything. They'd come from Homs, and they'd had a really good existence in Syria for years, and suddenly everything had been taken away from them. But the family unit had existed, so they were all together, even though they were in very trying circumstances. They were all together, and their children, their youngest was probably about 5, and their eldest was probably about 16. And they'd stayed together, and I think they'd been able to help each other, even though it had been very traumatic for them. But I met another family whose children were very young. They had a baby of like 6 months, I think. And they were deeply traumatized. You could see it in their faces. I would ask a question of the father, and he could only get 2 or 3 words out before his eyes started filling with tears. And his wife was terribly distressed. And that distress passed itself on to the children, who were very, obviously not well, both physically not well, but you could see they were traumatized. Their little girl Maya, who must have been about 5, I think, but looked undernourished, but also looked deeply troubled and suspicious of us at first, clinging on to her mother. Her mother broke down at one point, and they were clinging on to her. And they were only 2 families, and there are many, many families. And of course, we concentrate on the children as that lost generation that's potentially there, and the dangers of what will happen to them going forward. But when you see old people as well, people who are, approaching in their 90s, approaching their 100th birthdays or something, having to leave their homes and make this journey from Syria to Jordan, or Syria to Turkey, or Syria to Lebanon, that's a terrible decision to have to make at that time. If that was my grandfather or my grandmother or your grandmother and father, imagining somebody having to make that journey at that age. It affects me greatly. I mean, it affects me because I'm a father, and I'm a son, and I'm a husband, all those things. I think we sometimes look at our television screens and look at people and think that they're not like us, that, that's their fate and our fate is different. But it's not true. There's many, many, many people in the UK who are here because their grandparents were refugees themselves. If you look at America, lots of refugees in America. You can trace your ancestry back. So, here we are in the 21st century facing a massive refugee crisis, not just in Jordan and the Syrian refugees, but all around the world. And it's our responsibility as the West and as an affluent nation, even in the times of great financial crisis, we are an affluent nation, to make sure that we keep an eye on that and keep, I think it's that thing of keeping people responsible for their actions, keeping government responsible for their actions, and ourselves responsible for our actions when we look at the world and how we treat other human beings. We can't turn a blind eye to this. And you do carry it, and it is emotional, and you do look at your own life in a different way. But they are very positive things to do as a human being, to reach out, to help, as you would want people to reach out to you and help you if you were in a similar circumstance.